Thing
Well,
leave
Dwight
alone. Like, come on, don't pile on Dwight at this point.
I agree with you on that. Shaq shouldn't pile on Dwight.
It was funny, but
I was. Did you see how Dwight looked? Was that just the angle of the phone or something? It looked a little drawn. You know what I mean? Just
like
yeah. He looked.
Maybe
he's
been working out.
Look thin. That's not what they need. They don't need a thin. I mean, they don't need. I mean, you know.
Dwight's getting older, you know, as athletes age and they stay lean. That sometimes is a look. Dwight Howard in person, like as a physical specimen, shoulders
he's
crazy.
Like that Superman type. Yeah.
He'll need to be that, though. He'll need to be that. He'll need to be that to survive in L.A.
It's just like, look, when
Shaq
Shaq was piling on once upon a time, Dwight kind of deserved it because he thought more of himself offensively than maybe he actually, all those kind of things. But at this point,
Shaq
Dwight's coming back humble to the Lakers.
Fun. He's just playing.
Of course, that's why it's funny. It's just, you know.
All right, let's get to it. The last duo to three-peat, you know who it is, Shaq and Kobe. Stephen A. Smith putting you on the spot here. I know you're friends with both of them. Who would you rather have in their prime?
Kobe.
Okay.
I think that Shaq, listen, you think Wilt Chamberlain, you think Shaq, two most dominant forces we've ever seen in the history of basketball. That's what you see, okay? So nobody's trying to act like Shaq is not the most dominant force I've ever seen with my own two eyes on a basketball court. But I am always partial to guards because centers need help. If you're Shaq, you needed Kobe or somebody else to get you the basketball and to give you the ball in the right spots and things of that nature. When you are guard, you are more in a position to dictate the level of success that you ultimately accomplish for yourself, more so than a big man needing the assistance of guard play in order to facilitate that success. Kobe could be out on the perimeter. Kobe could go to the hole. Kobe could finish on a break, even though Shaq, for a big boy, could finish on a break too. But the biggest reason, and I've told Shaq this on several occasions, the biggest thing that I've held against Shaq more than anything is the fact that Shaq, those free throws, in the fourth quarter, you were limited with what you could do. Now, Shaq's position has always been, I made them when they counted. When you really needed me to step up, I could make those. And there was plenty of times in big moments where you needed Shaq to hit a free throw, and he actually did pull it off. But the point is that from the free throw line, career-wise, he was somewhat of a liability. You can't say the same about Kobe Bryant. And so when you look at Kobe Bryant and the arsenal that he brought to the table in his prime, as dominant as Shaq was, I would pick a guard. It's not really about Shaq or Kobe. I would pick an elite guard over an elite big man 99% of the time just because they have the ball in their hands more and they're able to dictate their success.
The answer is Shaq, because they played in their prime together, and Shaq was the undisputed number one player in the world when they were both in their primes. And even if you want to argue that Kobe was in his prime during the next three trips to the finals, 2 wins with Pau Gasol, or in between when he had that crazy 81-point game and everything, okay, even that Kobe was not going to be compared favorably to Shaq. But I understand your point, Stephen. I think especially in this era where the kind of play Shaq played back then is not seen as valuable as it was back then, right? So it's easy to elevate Kobe over Shaq when you think about it like that. But at the time, look, Kobe Bryant is weird. Remember when I put him on, he could be on the worst all decade, the worst team all decade because he was so bad at the end of his career. He is both among the most overrated and underrated players ever. Overrated by fans who saw him and think he's better than Jordan. Because when your eyes were on Kobe Bryant, if you didn't live through Michael Jordan, it is hard to imagine when you were watching him in his prime that anyone could be better than that. That's how great he was. So people he's the greatest ever. No, he's not better than Jordan. But then he's become underrated by some others. Kobe's not a top 10 player. Stop. The analytics don't fully capture his greatness because we've entered a more efficient era and he played in a less efficient one. Kobe in his prime was a top 10 all-time player. But Stephen A., Kobe was never undisputed. He was never the undisputed champ. Like, that dude, undisputed best player in basketball. Because first there was Shaq, then he and Duncan were like neck and neck, and then came LeBron. Kobe was in the mix the way Magic and Bird, neither one, like Magic and Bird kind of shared an era. Bird at first, then Magic came on later in terms of who peaked. Duncan and Kobe, same kind of thing. The undisputed champs in our lifetime, Michael Jordan, undisputed champ, everyone shut up. No, like, it was laughable to compare anyone to him in his prime. Then Shaq came. Shaq was undisputed, brother. No one disputed his claim to the best player in the world. Not Duncan, not Kobe, nobody. Olajuwon early a little bit. But I mean, when Shaq entered his prime and was giving you basically 30, 14, 4 assists with 3 blocks a year. Then came LeBron. Shaq's, we're not talking about career because Kobe stayed in shape. We're talking about peak value. The 3 highest peaks in our lifetime are Jordan and Shaq and LeBron. Those 3 were undisputed. No one disputed the claim to the throne. Peak value, the answer is Shaq.
There were times when LeBron James was the undisputed king. He wasn't winning championships, number one. Number two, once again, you're changing the argument. My whole point is I'm not questioning the dominance of Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal didn't win a championship with Eddie Jones. He didn't win a championship with Penny Hardaway. He won a championship with Kobe. And even when he won a championship with D. Wade, who was it that won that championship for the Miami Heat? It was D. Wade. Guard play is incredibly significant. That is my argument. It's not about the dominance of Shaquille O'Neal. There's nothing to question it. The only person that belongs in the same conversation as him is Wilt Chamberlain. But if you go on a basketball court, as dominant as a big man is, particularly when they're a liability at the free throw line, someone will always want that great guard because that great guard has the ability, wing player. That great guard or wing player has the ability to dictate success in a fashion that the big men do not, because the big men depend on the smaller guys to feed them in order to have this success. And that's all I'm saying.
That's the way a team
so
works.
in other words, you're not talking about better or worse or who was more dominant. It's who would you rather have? And what I would rather have if I were a coach is the person I could give the ball to 94 feet away from the basket, 50 feet away from the basket, 30 feet away from the basket and beyond, and say, take me there, as opposed to a guy that I got to rely upon 10 feet and in.
There are more guys who fit the description, obviously not on Kobe's level, but who are capable of doing something like that. You brought up Dwayne Wade. There are fewer Shaqs. The scarcity so when you look at
I agree with that.
By the way, I left one undisputed out in our lifetime, Kareem. Kareem was undisputed. Everyone shut up, right? Kareem, that's a center. Then came Jordan. That changed the argument, right? Before Jordan, it's like, oh, you have to have a big as the best. Jordan changed that. But then right after Jordan was Shaq, and then LeBron's also an unstoppable physical force.
Kareem has, what, 6 rings?
I think that's six. Yeah,
right?
One with Milwaukee and 5 with the Lakers.
5 with the Lakers, right? 5 with the Lakers. Say it again. Say it again. Because guess what? It wasn't 5 without him. It was 5 with him.
And he needed Oscar Robertson.
That's right. Because Magic was there. Oscar Robertson. That's all I'm saying.
When you talk about the greatest players in NBA history, after Jordan and LeBron, basically you're talking all centers. You're talking Wilt and Bill Russell and Kareem and Shaq.